Hello, Miss Petro. How are you? Good? Awesome. I'm good too. Sorry, I'm out investigating nanoparticles in drug delivery, so I just left a video analysis that you can watch on the Intermolecular Forces lab that we did a couple days ago. Enjoy the video. In the first experiment, the surface tension of water, isopropyl alcohol, and glycerol was tested. The first test was conducted by observing the vortex of each compound by swirling it in a flask. For beaker A, the solution formed a short vortex which evened out very quickly. For beaker B, this solution created the longest vortex. It took the longest to level out. For beaker C, the solution was incapable of producing a vortex. The substance seemed to be very viscous. From these results, I was able to conclude that beaker A contained isopropyl alcohol, beaker B contained water, and beaker C contained glycerol. So when a vortex is formed, it's kind of like a tornado, which is being sucked into the bottom of the glass beaker. When I read the textbook, I learned that glass contains many oxygen atoms that have partial negative charges. Since water is polar, the adhesive forces between its molecules and the molecules of glass are very strong. This disrupted the surface tension that was present in the water. Therefore, water was in beaker B. In isopropyl alcohol, there is only one hydrogen bonding site. Other sites of this molecule would have no adhesive force between themselves and the glass because they are nonpolar. This means that the adhesive force will be a lot weaker, and the surface tension of isopropyl alcohol will then overcome that force. As a result, the liquid would even out very quickly. Therefore, isopropyl alcohol was in beaker A. Lastly, the glycerol was very viscous because of the 3 hydrogen bonding site that it was composed of. As a result of this unexpectedly high viscosity, it was unable to form a vortex. Therefore, glycerol was in beaker C. The second test was conducted by observing the surface tension of the same substances on plastic plates. To further our understanding of the surface tension, we tilted the plates to see what would happen. For beaker A, the droplets did not stay together when they were dropped onto the plate. For beaker B, the droplets did stay together, and when the plate was tilted, the droplets also stayed in place. For beaker C, the droplets stayed in place, but when the plate was tilted, they would slightly move. This test further explained the surface tension of the 3 compounds. Beaker A, which is predicted to be isopropyl alcohol, splattered all over the plate. This made sense if you think about it because of its weak intermolecular forces in comparison to water and glycerol. However, one thing that I was wondering while performing this test was why did water have a greater surface tension than glycerol? I looked at the structure of glycerol and I thought that because it has strong intermolecular forces, its surface tension would be a lot higher. But then I realized that water also has very strong cohesive forces. Its molecules have partial charges on all of its atoms, and for this reason, every atom in the water would associate with another atom of the opposite charge. That is why water was able to maintain its shape and not move when the plate was tilted. In comparison, glycerol was composed of 3 hydrogen bonds and many nonpolar sites. This meant that the cohesive forces between the glycerol molecules would be significantly less than that of water because there are nonpolar sites. As a result, the glycerol was able to move slightly out of its shape and increase its surface area. For this experiment, the temperature change of 2 mixtures were compared and observed. They included water plus glycerol and water plus ethanol. The initial temperature of water was measured as 22.6 degrees Celsius. When glycerol was added, this temperature increased to 25.2 degrees Celsius over the course of 20 seconds. The change in temperature was 2.6 degrees Celsius. The initial temperature of water was measured at 24.3 degrees Celsius. Once ethanol was added, this temperature increased to 29.3 degrees Celsius over a time period of 20 seconds. The change in temperature was 5 degrees Celsius. From these results, it is clear that the change in temperature of water and glycerol was less than the change in temperature of the mixture of water and ethanol. All this occurred because of the intermolecular forces that were present. So for a substance to undergo a temperature change, it must be agitated for its particles to move, detach, and collide with one another. This, as a result, would produce heat and raise the temperature. When the ethanol and glycerol were added into the water, they were stirred. Ethanol molecules are not much different in size, but due to their weak intramolecular forces with water, they would take less energy to increase their temperature. However, because of its 3 hydrogen bonding sites that interacted with the polar atoms of water, glycerol would require a lot more energy for the bonds to break and a change in temperature to occur. The final part of the lab involved finding the relationship between the intermolecular forces and evaporation rate of a substance. These substances included pentanol, isopropyl alcohol, and methanol. We inserted a probe into each substance and then used a graph to determine when the temperature of the substance would level out. The time for this process was measured and the following results were produced. Flask A took 90 seconds to evaporate into the air, Flask B took 45 seconds, and Flask C took 32 seconds to evaporate. I use the structure of these substances to understand which substance corresponds to which flask. Since all 3 molecules have only 1 hydrogen bond and 1 dipole-dipole site, what I used was the LDF force and the size of the molecule as a criteria to determine which one was which. So while observing pentanol's structure, I could see that it consisted of 5 carbons, which made its LDF force very strong. This was followed by the 3 carbons in isopropyl alcohol and 1 in methanol. Furthermore, the molar mass of the molecules from least to greatest were pentanol, isopropyl alcohol, and methanol. And the bigger the molar mass of a molecule, the more energy is needed for it to vaporize. Another thing is that the LDF force and the molar mass go hand in hand, as the LDF force increases with molar mass. Therefore, it can be concluded that pentanol, isopropyl alcohol, and methanol were in flask A, B, and C, respectively. Now, did I get a 95? Am I going to Waterloo? Find out on the next episode of Mohammed versus Grade 12 Chemistry.